Family should forgive each other, which I deleted without answering. For the first time in my life, I'm putting my happiness ahead of my family's meticulously crafted story, choosing to be surrounded by people who appreciate me for who I am rather than who they wish me to be, and celebrating my accomplishments without downplaying them to stroke someone else's pride. But here's the thing, I'm a scientist, and I deal in observable facts. And the facts are that they broke up this family long ago, piece by piece, every time they chose to devalue one daughter in order to elevate the other. I know there will be fallout when my parents realize I'm serious about cutting contact. They'll probably tell everyone that I'm being dramatic, that I'm jealous of Ava's success, and that I'm destroying the family. I have my research, my students, my grants, and now, possibly, a partner who sees me clearly and values what he sees. So here I am at 42, finally prepared to do the most important experiment of my life, seeing who I can be without the weight of their expectations and disappointments. Perhaps that's more than enough. Perhaps that's everything. First update. 3 months have passed since my previous post, and a lot has transpired. Let's start with the good news. Michael and I are officially engaged. He proposed last weekend while we were going over the final blueprints for the new research center. He had concealed the ring in a blueprint tube, and it was the ideal combination of thoughtful, subtle, and wholly us. Let me give you a little background so you can see how far I've come. After the David and Ava disaster, I threw myself into the new research facility project, and working with Michael became my haven. As my family called me non-stop to ask me to forgive Ava and keep the peace, Michael and I spent long hours talking about how to create the ideal laboratory spaces. The interaction itself was a huge contrast to my experience with David, who made the proposal at a department meeting, making it all about getting attention from the public. With David, everything was a competition, who had more publications, whose research was more innovative. Michael, however, made it personal and significant. My Aunt Linda, who was sincerely delighted for us, sent the bad news to my parents, and within hours, my phone was overflowing with messages. "Why didn't you tell us you were seeing someone serious?" was Mom's initial reaction, rather than "congratulations. Ava may have compared you to her friend's architect spouse." The guilt tripping then began. "We should have been the first to know. We're your parents." It didn't matter that they hadn't inquired about my life once in the 3 months since the David incident. They were too preoccupied with helping Ava cope with the anxiety of possibly being discovered having another affair. Mom called in tears, claiming that I was denying Ava her position as maid of honor and family tradition. When I reminded her that Ava wasn't even invited, she fell silent for a full minute before giving a speech about forgiveness and family ties. That's when the real drama began. Richard has been aloof ever since David, my ex-fiancé, began working as a personal trainer at his company's fitness center. Yes, you read correctly. David quit academia to pursue a career in personal training. It seems that he and Ava have been seeing each other at the gym. Richard isn't aware of this yet, but people are talking about it. During this trying time, Ava has been phoning me every day and left messages about how she needs her big sister. In contrast, my research has thrived amidst all of this turmoil. Last week, we were awarded further funding for our cellular regeneration study, and the grant committee particularly mentioned the creative lab design Michael and I created together as a contributing reason. Grandma Martha was thrilled when I contacted her to tell her the news. "That's my girl," she remarked proudly. His mother, a retired judge who truly knows the complexities of the situation, said me something that truly spoke to me. Family isn't about sharing DNA, it's about sharing respect. Michael's family has been incredible throughout this entire ordeal. One of my best friends is his sister, a professor of literature. Michael and I had our first real date in the botanical gardens, where he had asked me to discuss the greenhouse specifications for the new research facility. We ended up talking for hours about everything from architectural history to photosynthesis, which is why the wedding planning has been surprisingly calm, mainly because we are keeping it small and meaningful. Grandma Martha, who has been more of a parent to me than my own parents ever were, is the only member of my immediate family who will be there when Michael and I meet with her tomorrow to show her our wedding preparations, and to be honest, it seems perfect. Michael joins me for some sessions, and his insights as an architect often provide interesting perspectives. Emotional boundaries are like load-bearing walls. They're not about keeping people out. They're about maintaining structural integrity, he said in our most recent session. I've started going to a therapist to process all of this, and she's helping me understand that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family. For now, I'm concentrating on my research, my future spouse, and finally putting myself first. I'll provide another update once we have a clear wedding date. For the first time in my life, I feel appreciated and seen for who I am, not because I'm someone's sister or daughter. Second update. 2 more months have passed since my last update, and I wish I could report that things have improved with my family. The wedding is in 3 weeks, and instead of being a happy period of preparation, my parents and Ava have caused yet another family crisis. We meticulously organized everything, a small ceremony in the botanical gardens, followed by a private reception. I made it clear to my parents that Ava was not invited, and the guests were chosen to include my grandmother Martha, a few close relatives who have always been there for me, my coworkers, and Michael's family. My Aunt Linda called to warn me after overhearing Ava boasting about the surprise she was planning for my wedding, and it turned out that she had already purchased a dress that, in her own words, will show everyone what a real star looks like. I learned yesterday that my parents had not only informed Ava about the wedding details, but had actively encouraged her to attend. When I confronted my parents, they pretended that they were helping me. "We couldn't let you make the mistake of excluding your only sister," Mom said, adding, "She's got a beautiful speech about sisterly forgiveness. It will make the wedding so much more meaningful." This was the most frustrating part. They responded, "But she's going through such a difficult time with Richard. He's been so cold to her lately, and she needs her family's support." I had to reiterate that someone who had an affair with my ex-fiancé is not allowed to speak about forgiveness at my wedding. With his exact words, "The only dramatic performance happening at our wedding will be our vows." Michael, who has been tremendously supportive throughout this whole ordeal, quickly phoned our wedding venue to set up extra security after I informed him of Ava's planned intrusion. The irony that Ava's marriage to Richard is disintegrating at the same time that I'm starting a new life with Michael is not lost on me. Richard has finally begun to inquire about her frequent gym visits with David, and my Aunt Linda claims that there have been some tense arguments at their home. Nevertheless, in my parents' eyes, this makes Ava the victim who requires assistance rather than the mastermind behind her own demise. In addition to the gym, my colleague noticed David and Ava eating lunch together at a cafe close to the university, looking very intimate. I brought this up to my mother in the hopes that she would finally notice the pattern, but she dismissed it as Ava being a supportive friend to someone going through a career change. My parents tried a new strategy this week. Dad, who has never shown up at my lab without warning in my academic career, tried to persuade me that keeping Ava out would create a rift that can never be healed. The rift was created when you consistently chose her over me. It was widened when you dismissed her betrayal of my trust, I said, looking at him standing there, this man who had never taken an interest in my work. "Don't worry about Ava," Grandma Martha, bless her, assured me. "I'll be stationed at the entrance. She wouldn't dare try to get past me." Grandma Martha, who is 92 years old and still sharp as a tack and doesn't take foolish people well, offered to run interference on the wedding day. My research lab has become my haven during all of this chaos. The clarity of data analysis and the precision of scientific work are a welcome contrast to the emotional manipulation I'm dealing with at home. Michael's brother, who works in private security, has also arranged for a few colleagues to be present, disguised as guests. I've hired additional security for the wedding, though it pains me that I have to protect my own wedding from my sister's intrusion. The venue has been given photos of Ava and strict instructions not to allow her entry. 3 weeks before the wedding, I should be thrilled about marrying the amazing man who supports my career, knows my boundaries, and loves me for who I am, but instead I'm planning how to prevent my own sister from ruining my wedding day. My graduate students have noticed my increased presence in the lab, but they've been incredibly supportive. I will provide another update following the wedding. Regardless of Ava's presence, I am getting married to Michael. I will no longer allow my family's drama to overshadow my happiness. Third update: yesterday was the wedding, and while I wish I could say everything went well, my family did manage to pull off one last dramatic moment, but this time, something unexpected happened. The truth was revealed, and the fallout was both painful and freeing. Ava, as usual, wore a white dress that looked more appropriate for a red carpet event than a morning garden wedding, and our parents showed up at the botanical gardens despite all our precautions, my mother sobbing uncontrollably about how cruel it was to exclude them while my father tried to reason with the security team. When Grandma Martha and Michael's sister came, I was in the bridal suite with them, and as I saw the chaos at the door through the window, something inside of me finally broke. It all came to a head when I stepped out to the entrance still wearing my wedding dress after years of being the nice daughter, being silent as they denigrated me, and watched them justify Ava's actions. "Emily, how could you do this to me? I'm your sister. I came here to support you, to show you how much I love you," Ava said as she launched into her performance. When she saw Richard's car arrive into the parking lot, she stopped talking. Yes, it was Richard, her husband, who had reportedly followed her there. A scene from a movie played out when Richard confronted Ava about her relationship with David. Despite her best efforts to deny it, David called her phone, which was on speaker, and everyone heard him ask whether she would still be coming over later. My mother then turned to me and exclaimed, "Look what you've done. If you had just invited your sister properly, none of this would have happened," rather than confronting Ava about her actions. The last straw was that. I answered in a surprisingly composed voice. "No, Mom. These are her decisions, not mine. She chose to have an affair with my fiancé while she was married, to attend my wedding without being invited in white, and to keep seeing David behind Richard's back. 3 years ago, I found Ava and my then fiancé David, together in his office," I began, turning to our guests. When I told our parents, they never once asked how I was feeling. They were only concerned with protecting Ava's marriage because Richard has a prenuptial agreement. Richard's expression changed from hurt to angry. "A prenup? Is that why you've been pretending everything's fine?" he asked Ava, who revealed everything through mascara and tears. The affair with David had been going on before he and I were engaged, and she had pursued him out of boredom and because she couldn't stand that for once I had something she didn't. My parents, who were still apparently more worried about Ava's failing marriage than their other daughter's wedding day, followed as Richard turned and left without saying another word, and Ava ran after him while yelling his name. Following their departure, an extraordinary event occurred. The remaining guests, which included